And Gabby Williams were slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Well, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads. It took them both some time to get to their feet.
Lexie Hull absorbed a brutal head-to-head collision that had everyone in the arena convinced her night was done. Yet just minutes later, she stunned the crowd by checking back in. A noticeable bump on her forehead, throwing herself after loose balls and crashing the glass as if nothing had ever happened. That fearless moment perfectly summed up the heart of this Indiana Fever squad. On a night meant to spotlight Nike's grand Caitlin Clark celebration, the Fever showed up without Caitlin, missing nearly half their backcourt, and still walked away with a statement victory, completing a season sweep over the Seattle Storm. The question is, how did Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Odyssey Sims, and Kelsey Mitchell complete?
Woo! First home game, got a dub, let's get it.
Big dub. Let's go.
Fever dub, bow. Woo, dubs. It's giving sweet.
Indiana's struggles began long before the first whistle. Star guard Caitlin Clark remained sidelined, still battling the groin injury that had kept her out of action since mid-July. She wasn't the only absence. Sophie Cunningham, Ari McDonald, and Sydney Colson had all been ruled out with season-ending setbacks, leaving major holes in the rotation. On top of that, Chloe BBY continued to push through lingering knee discomfort, making the situation even more complicated. With so many players missing, the Fever were stripped of nearly their entire guard depth, forcing the bench to be stretched razor-thin while the starters were left to log heavy minutes on a night that mattered more than most. It wasn't just about playing a game. It was about surviving one of the toughest roster crunches of the season.
AB's been the one that's been most affected by all of our injuries. You know, all of the point guards that know how to get her the ball and how they get it to her. And it's not just getting her the ball, it's where you get it to her. You know, getting it to her on time, on target, you know, thinking one pass ahead, you know, all that matters. And I thought today, her aggressiveness with the ball in her hands to the rim, getting into defenders, playing low to high instead of high to low. When she plays like that, you know, there's nobody that can stop her. And, you know, she set the tone for us, really on both ends. You know, she had the NECA assignment as well and set the tone for us on both ends. And, you know, she was terrific.
The timing couldn't have been more brutal. Indiana was already reeling, having dropped 4 of their last 5 contests and sliding dangerously close to the edge of the playoff race. They stepped into this matchup clinging to a 19-18 record, occupying the 8th and final postseason slot, while Seattle loomed just ahead in 6th place. That razor-thin margin, separated by only a single win, turned every possession into a battle with playoff implications written all over it. The Fever weren't simply fighting to avoid another damaging skid. They were scratching and clawing for upward movement in one of the tightest standings races of the season. For the players grinding it out on the floor and the fans riding the emotional wave from the stands, the sense of urgency wasn't just present, it was suffocating.
Aaliyah, this is a string of games, beginning of a string of games against the teams you're competing for a playoff spot against. Did this game feel more important in that regard? And I guess how big was it to get a win in this one?
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, we talked about that this was going to be a big game for us, considering the standings where Seattle was. But, you know, going into the West Coast trip, I mean, right now we're just going to be focused on LA. That's kind of been our motto this entire season, is just focus on the game ahead of you, be where your feet are. And so starting tomorrow, we're going to be looking at LA. But, I mean, this next string of games definitely important for us, but we got to take it one game at a time.
And yet, before the opening tip, the atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse painted an entirely different picture. The night wasn't about tension or desperation. It felt like a festival. Caitlin Clark's highly anticipated Nike logo reveal had transformed the arena into a full-blown off-court celebration. Banners and signage hung from the railings. Promotional shirts turned the stands into a sea of matching colors, and fans crowded every corner to capture selfies in front of branded backdrops. The spotlight wasn't just on a basketball game. It was on Clark's rise as both a generational athlete and a cultural icon. But beneath the glitter and applause lay a sharp twist of irony. While the marketing spectacle revolved around her, Clark herself could only sit courtside in street clothes, sidelined by injury, forced to watch as her teammates shouldered the weight of keeping Indiana's playoff hopes alive.
Feels good. Got the pants, got the charms. necklace, zipper, everything.
On the floor, the adjustment loomed even larger. With Caitlin Clark sidelined, Indiana lost not only her deep-range shooting that normally stretched defenses thin, but also the stabilizing presence of multiple veteran guards who could control the tempo. That meant the Fever had little choice but to double down on their strengths in the paint, attacking inside, dominating the glass, and grinding for second-chance points, just to keep themselves competitive. Across from them, Seattle entered with a seasoned core, veterans who understood exactly how to expose a short-handed roster while fighting for their own playoff security. On paper, it felt like a mismatch. Most inside Gamebridge Fieldhouse braced themselves for nothing more than a hard-fought battle, with few truly expecting Indiana to come away with anything beyond survival.
It's special. I mean, there's very few people who get the opportunity to say that they have a logo and to make the impact that she makes, not just, I think, in the sport, but globally, just by being who she is. She's a connector. She brings people together. And, I think for us to be a part of that, and whether it's, as simple as being able to celebrate all of these things with her, or, as much as walking out into the arena and seeing the whiteout on the chairs out there, it's really cool. And it's really special and shoot, I'm talking about it right now and just feeling the intense gratitude for me personally, being in women's basketball, to be able to be a part of this moment and to celebrate with her.
Still, the Fever players stepped onto the court with a noticeably different kind of energy. Instead of letting the long injury list or the off-court spectacle dictate the tone of the night, they treated it as a proving ground, a test of grit and toughness. Defensive rotations snapped into place with extra urgency, and every box out carried a little more force, as if each rebound was a battle for respect. The crowd, drawn in by Caitlin Clark's presence but eager to see another hero emerge, began feeding off that intensity, rising louder with every hustle play. The atmosphere shifted from anxious to electric, building with the sense that something unexpected was brewing. And it was inside that fragile, high-pressure environment where the moment of the night unfolded, a single violent collision that crystallized Indiana's resilience and set the tone for everything that followed.
And Gabby Williams were slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Oh, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads. It took them both some time to get to their feet.
It all unfolded early in the opening quarter. Lexie Hull and Gabby Williams went diving after a loose ball beneath the basket, colliding headfirst in a violent crash that echoed through the arena. The thud was loud enough to make the crowd gasp, and both players dropped to the hardwood instantly. Williams eventually made her way to the bench, shaken but upright, while Hull staggered off toward the locker room, pressing her hand against her forehead. Cameras zoomed in to reveal the swelling beginning almost instantly. A not so visible, it made fans in the stands and viewers at home wince in sympathy. The once-charged atmosphere inside Gamebridge Fieldhouse fell silent, tension flooding the air, with Hull appearing to join the already devastating list of 5 sideline teammates. It felt as though Indiana had finally hit the breaking point.
Happened on that play?
Well, I didn't know exactly what happened when it happened. It was kind of just like a clash. But looking at the video, it just, Gabby and I ran into each other. Unlucky. I think we both have knots on our heads, so we both kept playing, so it's all right.
Were you pretty dazed when you...
Yeah, I think it's more of like what just happened, big collision. I just need some time. Felt my face, felt a growing knot, so that doesn't feel good.
Most fans figured that was the end of her night. After all, you don't take a hit like that, with a swelling knot forming on your forehead in real time, and just walk back into the game. It looked like a textbook out for the night injury. But here's the reality. Lexie Hull has never been about flash or highlight reels. What she brings is far more vital, especially for a shorthanded Indiana roster. She's the grinder who takes on the toughest defensive assignments, the scrapper who dives for 50-50 balls, and the spark plug whose hustle ties the team's energy together. Losing her wouldn't just mean one less body. It would leave Indiana dangerously exposed on the perimeter, where Seattle's veterans were primed to take advantage. Everyone inside Gamebridge Fieldhouse understood the stakes. The collective thought hanging in the air was painfully clear. If Hull can't come back, how on earth do the Fever survive this night?
Storm basketball. Deliver Sidantos, Kelsey Fitzgerald, Lexie Hull. Second to the floor.
The minutes dragged by, the uncertainty thick in the air. Then, almost out of nowhere, Lexie Hull emerged from the tunnel and checked back into the game. The swelling on her forehead was impossible to miss, but her expression carried the same fire as before. And on her very first possession back, she made a statement, throwing herself to the hardwood in pursuit of a loose ball, as if the collision had never happened. The arena exploded, fans rising to their feet in a roar that felt less like applause and more like gratitude. What had seemed like the end of her night instantly flipped into the turning point of the game. Afterward, Hull admitted she had felt dazed and disoriented in the immediate aftermath of the hit, yet she still logged heavy minutes down the stretch. In true Warrior fashion, she even laughed about it later, saying everyone kept reassuring her she looked beautiful, even with a massive lump across her forehead.
Getting back on the bench, was everybody just kind of staring at your forehead directly? And...
I knew yeah. Everyone's like, you look beautiful. I'm like, I know I look insane, but it honestly looks better now than it did when it first happened. So hopefully this goes down quick.
Did you glance up at the video board to see it? Did you get a look at it?
No, I could see it looking out. I could see it just from my own eyes. So I didn't need to look anywhere. I knew it was going to be big.
No way. So it's in your peripheral vision?
Yes. It was literally sticking out. I mean, it's still big right here, but it was bigger and I could see it. So they brought it down a little. Your
teammates, your coach, the GM, everybody's just kind of talking about your toughness, I guess. So there's not really a good way to ask that question, but if you could just talk to me about that toughness and where that comes from.
I mean, if I can play, if I feel like I can play, whether or not I look good or not isn't the problem. So, I think for me, it's just the team is the most important thing, getting wins the most important thing, and if I can contribute in any way I can, that's what I'm going to do. So if it's playing a little injured, playing a little hurt, that is what it is.
Awesome.
Hull's decision to keep fighting didn't just lift the crowd. It rippled straight through her teammates. The bench fed off it, the starters fed off it, and suddenly the entire roster carried themselves with the same grit. After the game, Aaliyah Boston summed it up perfectly. She didn't just applaud Hull's effort. She flat out called her the definition of toughness. And that wasn't a throwaway compliment. It gave a name to what the Fever embodied on that night. In the middle of injuries, distractions, and doubt, Indiana showed the league exactly who they were. A team that refused to fold, no matter the circumstances.
Lexie Hull gets hit in the head there at the beginning of the game, comes back in. If you could just speak to her toughness and what it meant seeing her fight through what sure was not very pleasant.
I feel like Lexie's the definition of tough.
Yes.
I think when you just think of her as a player, the way that she hustles, she likes to get loose balls, extra offensive possessions. That's what she does. I mean, she got hit, she came back and just continued to contribute again, was a pest on defense, just making her presence felt, offensive rebounds, and that's just who Lexie is. So.
Their coach echoed that exact sentiment. Stephanie White didn't mince words when reflecting on the collision. She called it flat out disgusting. Yet, in the same breath, she praised Lexie Hull as completely unshakable. White explained that Hull is the type of player who never lets pain show, who refuses to dwell on setbacks, and who simply rises, possession after possession, to compete at full throttle. And that's exactly what she did on this night. Absorbing a brutal hit, shaking it off, and embodying the toughness her coach has always trusted her to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, that was disgusting. I don't know if y'all saw it, but I mean, it's who she is. She's just a tough young woman who battles every possession, and you can never tell if Lexie if she's hurt, if she's injured, if she goes down, if she gets back up. She just always has the same expression, and she just plays her butt off. And I'm thankful that it wasn't worse, and thankful that she was able to come back. But she really kind of epitomizes the toughness and the grit of this team.
The box score told the story just as clearly as the eye test. Hull pulled down 9 rebounds and posted a team-best plus-minus of +31, numbers that spoke to the impact her toughness had on every possession. It wasn't about flashy scoring. It was her defense, her hustle, and her willingness to anchor lineups that looked like they had been stitched together on the fly. Her return didn't just stabilize Indiana, it flipped the entire energy inside the building. Suddenly, This wasn't about clinging on and surviving. It was about seizing the night and making a statement. And Hull's resilience lit the fuse for the rest of the roster, setting the stage for Boston, Sims, and Mitchell to completely take over the game.
Bouncing. Boston can't finish inside, but able to tap it back out. Hull tracks it down and steps into a three and connects.
I know.
With Indiana's guard rotation stripped to the bone, the entire game plan shifted toward the interior, and Aaliyah Boston made sure Seattle felt the weight of it on every single trip down the floor. She bulldozed her way to 27 points, hauled in 9 rebounds, and turned the paint into her personal domain. Possession after possession, she carved out deep position, used her frame to seal defenders, and finished with a blend of power and precision that left the Storm scrambling. Even when Seattle threw doubles at her, Boston refused to budge, forcing them to pick their poison and still coming out on top. There's a different electricity when a true star decides to shoulder the burden of an offense. And on this night, Boston didn't just carry the load. She owned the paint like it had her name written across it.
And good hands there by Aaliyah. Boston just wrestles it away from Wnba, and here is Mitchell.
Usually you'd have a 2-for-1 right here if you had Caitlin Clark on the floor, but without Caitlin Clark, you really need to get a good look.
They do get a good look, and it's Boston to Mitchell. Here is Boston going at the rookie. Boston using her strength to get to the rim.
That 1-4 dribble puts the shot blocker inside the cylinder of the rim.
Seattle simply had no answers. By the time halftime arrived, it was clear their front court was drowning under the pressure. Indiana dominated the glass 42-21, a staggering margin almost unheard of at this level of play. Every loose rebound seemed magnetized to Boston's hands, and each one turned into second-chance opportunities that piled up quickly. Meanwhile, the Storm's offense sputtered. Their guards tried driving into the lane but ran into a wall of traffic, and when they looked to the perimeter, nothing opened beyond the arc. The frustration became visible, shots rushed, passes forced, and body language sagging. Inside, it felt like a one-way war, with Boston dictating the tempo, controlling both ends, and leaving Seattle stuck in a fight they simply couldn't win.
It's just a really good job. That's what I'm talking about. An extra dribble to get Malanga inside the cylinder of the rim.
It's been a strong start to the third quarter here for Indiana. An 11-point lead has grown to 16, and Boston adding to it, and one in a foul.
Screen and roll, and a good seal. I say this.
But Boston wasn't carrying the load alone. Odyssey Sims rose to the occasion, playing with the poise and confidence of a veteran who had lived on this stage for years. She poured in 22 points, carving up Seattle's defense by attacking off the dribble, pushing the pace in transition, and delivering one of the night's most unforgettable highlights. In the third quarter, she pulled up from the logo and buried a deep 3, sending the arena into absolute chaos. That shot wasn't just worth 3 points, it was a declaration. Sims was telling the league, and everyone watching, that this short-handed Fever squad had no intention of folding. For a player signed late in the season, she didn't just look comfortable, she looked fearless. Her energy and tempo became contagious, fueling the confidence of every teammate on the floor.
Aaliyah Boston and Ezzy Magbagor in the center jump circle. We are underway from Indianapolis. Odyssey Sims tracks down the jump ball and lays it in. There is Sims, one of those newcomers, slicing through the defense and gets to the rim.
I love the vertical game of the Fever right now.
In this building, 2007, finished third all-time points scored. IHSA basketball history on the girls' side as Odyssey Sims knocks down a 3.
Kelsey Mitchell added her trademark steady scoring punch, chipping in 21 points that stretched Seattle's defense and prevented them from locking in solely on Boston. Even without Caitlin Clark spacing the floor, Mitchell's perimeter shooting and quick trigger release kept Indiana's offense balanced and dangerous. Every time the Storm threatened to claw their way back, cutting the lead or flashing momentum, it was Mitchell who silenced them with a timely jumper or a cold-blooded three. Her consistency reminded everyone that Indiana still had serious firepower on the outside, even with half their backcourt missing. And when you combined her shot-making with Sims' fearless energy and Boston's dominance in the paint, the Fever suddenly had an identity that didn't resemble desperation at all. It resembled control. It resembled dominance.
As Wnba gets it to go. Mitchell, quick trigger, and hits.
Unguardable. No one can guard. Sykes doing a good job of stuffing that backdoor cut, but it just sets up the screen and roll. It's all Kelsey Mitchell. The subtle things, the amount of attention.
What stood out most was how seamlessly this reshaped game plan clicked in every phase. The Fever turned defensive stops into instant transition opportunities, holding Seattle to just 3 fast break points all night, a staggering number for a team known for speed. Indiana dictated the tempo, owned the interior, and played with such relentless aggression that the Storm spent most of the game reacting instead of dictating. This wasn't about simply surviving until Caitlin Clark returns. This was about building an alternative formula and proving it could dominate. By the final buzzer, the 95-75 victory didn't read like an upset, it read like authority. Indiana completed a 3-0 season sweep over Seattle, leapt back into 6th place in the playoff race, and delivered their most definitive statement of the year. On a night designed to celebrate Clark's logo, the Fever proved something far bigger. This team isn't just one star. They're deeper, tougher, and more dangerous than anyone imagined.
Okay, really great stuff. That's the most complete game we put together in a long time. We made more free throws than they attempted. Yo, hey, that is a difference maker for us, and that will be a difference maker for us. 22 assists on 36 made field goals. Total team effort.
AB, 1,000th career rebound. Youngest player in Fever history to do so. And Kel set a new franchise record for most points in a single season.
So now, with Caitlin Clark inching closer to stepping back on the floor, the question almost asks itself. If this group can impose their will while battered and shorthanded, what kind of ceiling do they reach once they're finally whole again? On the same night Indiana celebrated its most complete performance in weeks, the moment fans had been waiting for finally arrived. Clark returned to the practice court. For the first time since suffering her groin injury in mid-July, she joined live drills alongside her teammates, and the buzz around that update spread as quickly as word of the Fever's victory. Her absence had stretched across 16 straight games, one of the longest of her career, so seeing her back in uniform meant far more than a symbolic gesture. It was a signal. The road to recovery was no longer just a hope. It was closing in on the finish line.
I don't have any specifics on it. I think right now it's day to day. She's progressed in her rehab and anticipate by hopefully what is today? What day is today? Tuesday. By hopefully end of the week she'll be on the floor at least in practice.
What have you been missing without her? I was talking to her recently about what she brought to you guys, but what do you feel like you've lacked when she is absent from these games?
The ability to spread the floor for AB. I mean, really to have another person that can knock down a shot and we can create some space for AB to go to work on the interior.
Before the game, Coach Stephanie White broke down exactly where Caitlin Clark stood in her recovery. Earlier in the week, Clark had only been cleared for walk thrusts, controlled, light reps with no real contact. But this time was different. The goal was to put her through a full practice environment, not just shooting drills or individual conditioning, but testing the real factors that matter. How her body absorbs contact, how she reacts when defenders crowd her space, and whether she can maintain rhythm over extended stretches. Groin injuries can be tricky, come back too soon, and the risk of setbacks multiplies. White emphasized that it would take multiple full practices before the staff felt confident enough to activate her. And the urgency is undeniable. Indiana has only 6 games left in the regular season, and every single day without Clark shrinks their margin for error. Yes, the Fever have climbed into the 6th seed, a marked improvement from a week ago, but the standings are packed tight. One brief losing skid could easily send them spiraling out of position and put their playoff hopes on life support. That's why Clark's recovery isn't about easing her back for the future. It's about survival in the present, about momentum, and about giving Indiana a fighting chance to finish the season standing tall.
Just curious, on a big picture, was Caitlin able to go through your little walkthrough or whatever you normally do? And what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort whenever the time comes?
Yeah, she went through our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time, but she went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice, live in practice. I want to see her continue to work to not just build endurance, but to be able to handle contact 94 feet as it's going to be in game, and to be able to do that and sustain from an endurance standpoint. And that's going to take multiple practices to make sure that there's no regression. And as most of us know, when we get fatigued, we look different, and see how she plays through fatigue.
The contrast inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse couldn't have been sharper. On the very night her brand new Nike logo was splashed across banners, t-shirts, and fan backdrops, Caitlin Clark sat courtside in a simple warm-up outfit. She smiled, she clapped, she encouraged her teammates, but the spotlight still felt incomplete without her presence on the floor. That picture alone told the entire story. The brand was thriving, yet the team had been forced to chase wins without their most dangerous weapon. Step by step, though, her progress is becoming clear. First came solo shooting sessions, then came light contact, and now, she's entering the phase that matters most. Live practices, arguably the final barrier before she suits up again. All eyes are on Friday's matchup against the Los Angeles Sparks, circled as the potential return date. Beyond being a Western Conference test, that game offers Indiana something priceless. Time to reintegrate Clark before back-to-back battles with heavyweights like Phoenix and Minnesota. Her comeback isn't only about filling up a stat sheet or producing highlight reels. It's about unleashing a version of the fever that just stunned Seattle and imagining how much more dangerous they become with Clark stretching defenses, igniting fast breaks, and elevating everyone around her. Because here's the truth. If this short-handed squad can dominate without her, the full-strength fever could flip the entire playoff race upside down. Against Seattle, Indiana proved more than resilience. They proved identity, toughness, and belief. And now, with Clark almost back, the ceiling only gets higher. Stephanie White has already confirmed that live contact practices are the last step. Once she clears that hurdle, the Wnba is on notice. So now it's your turn. Do you believe this Fever team just transformed from an injury-plagued underdog into a playoff-ready contender? Let me know in the comments by typing, "I've got the fever." And if you're riding with Indiana, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update on Clark's comeback or the Fever's playoff push. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.